Hey, so I have recently updated the stereo in my Abarth once again. I had an Xtrons unit in here previously. That's an Android-based unit. And it did okay. The install was a little bit more difficult than I feel like it should have been, since that unit was designed for the Fiat 500. It just seemed like there was a bit more work involved getting everything working correctly. And for whatever reason, the Xtrons unit didn't have access to things like the automatic door lock functions, just some things like that. Also, the rear view camera was kept functional, the OEM rear view camera, but it was really, really dark and hard to see. So the dash of the Abarth is kind of slanted. It's kind of at an angle. And when the Xtrons unit was put in there, that meant that the screen was at an angle, kind of upward toward the sky. And it wasn't like a great display to begin with. It's not like there was a lot of brightness or a really high-def screen or anything. So it wound up being very difficult to see the backup camera, very difficult to see the Android Auto functions. Just all around, it was hard to see it. And I wasn't happy overall with the integration. Some of the steering wheel buttons didn't work, like the voice command button here. It would take me to navigation, and I couldn't change it. There was no way to modify it at all. So what I did is I spent a whole bunch of money and got a Sony unit. This is a Sony XAV, I think 9500. It's something like that. It's one of their ES lines, their mobile ES line. This is a 10-inch display that is anti-glare. The LCD screen is bonded to the glass on the front. To help with glare and make it really visible. I'm going to turn on the car real quick. Alright, so everything's getting turned on here. It just gives it a little warning there. It's going to connect to my phone. I'm going to wait for that to take place and cancel that. Alrighty, so so this is it. Big bright screen. Can see a ton of stuff. There's a little bit of, sun coming through my garage right now. I'm gonna go ahead and open the top and let some more light in, and we'll see what that looks like. So with the old unit, everything right now was just completely illegible. I mean, it was really, really hard to see. And I'm not saying this is going to be great with the top open and direct sunlight or anything, but it's definitely much brighter and easier to see than the other one was, that Xtrons unit. We've got physical buttons across the top. We've got a home button. We've got volume buttons. We've got forward and reverse, and then we've got a voice command button for talking to your Google Assistant or your Siri. All of the buttons work the way that they're supposed to over here, so everything works. If I push the voice command button, that brings up Siri while I'm connected to that brings up the Google Assistant while I'm connected to Android Auto. I'm going to cancel that. Alright, it's got wireless Android Auto. These buttons down here at the bottom, these white lines, these are actually buttons that don't have labels, so they can be programmed to do whatever you want. Right now they're programmed to go back to the home menu. I'm going to go ahead and close the roof so that you guys get the best viewing possible. I added a Abarth logo to the screen, which was really easy to do. The install for this was really pretty easy. There were no wiring hiccups. This comes with, well, it didn't come with, but I bought a Maestro RR unit, which allowed me to plug it into my laptop and get everything programmed for the car so that it works the way that it's supposed to. All the buttons on the steering wheel. I have access to the car functions that I mentioned earlier. So if I go to application here and then go to Maestro, go to Maestro settings, and then we've got vehicle features. So in vehicle features and vehicle settings, I've got my cluster display, I've got my safety and driving assistance settings, I've got my daytime running lights I can turn on or off. All of the features that are available in the car with the stock radio are all available here. And again, all the buttons work the way that they're supposed to. I've got a cable hooked up to my OBD port. That OBD port's cable runs all the way up here to the car. And then we've got gauges that I can show you. Let me go ahead and turn the car on. So now if I go to gauges, I've got things like I can measure 0 to 60 time. I've got my timing, my degrees of timing pulled up there. Over here I've got my air-fuel ratio, transmission temperature, oil temperature, boost and vacuum, intake temp, and you can change these to be anything. I mean, there's a ton of different things you can do here. I can select the gauges. I've got fuel economy stuff, OBD2 communication. Yeah, it's got a lot of features. As you can see, it's also really responsive. When I'm tapping on the screen, everything comes up pretty quick. Yeah, so everything comes up pretty quick. I've got absolutely zero complaints right now with this. The only wire that I needed to connect was the wiring harness that comes with the radio needed to have the power antenna wire that also came with the radio when I bought it. That needed to be connected. That's it. Everything else was plug and play. The dash kit is a little bit different. So the dash kit is a Metra dash kit, and I don't know if you can see, but it has a pocket underneath to place things, which is really kind of lame because there's no point in that. And it also takes up some room behind the sub dash here. You actually have to take a hacksaw and cut 2 areas of the plastic. It shows you in the installation guide which areas need to be cut. So after you cut those, everything fits really well. Without cutting those, it didn't seem like it would want to go in. So I did have to cut those areas, but I don't plan on going back to the stock head unit anytime soon. And really, I don't think that would make a difference anyway. If I put the stock head unit back in, it would just have more room to fit in there. But yeah, I'm super happy with this. The reason that I also went with this radio, again, this is an anti-glare unit, but this one also is completely adjustable for height and angle. So I've got this screen lowered as far as it can go. So right now where it's at, you can kind of see how it is on my dash. This is as low as it's gonna get. I do maybe wish it could go like 1 notch lower, because it could go fairly low without interrupting these buttons down here. But this still gives me access to the controls for the vents, and I can still reach the vents with how wide it is. So that's a pretty good fit. And it's also adjustable for tilt. So I've tilted it all the way forward as well. So with the Xtrons unit, it would have been tilted much further back, which means that there would have been a lot more glare. I wouldn't be kind of directly looking at the screen. This is a much more natural angle. It's pretty much angled the same as this, the gauge cluster there. And so it's angled as far forward as it can go. Also, you can adjust this left or right, which I didn't need to do, but you can adjust it a couple of steps to the left or a couple of steps to the right in case there was something in the way, but there's nothing in the way with this. Overall, this is, I think, a fantastic radio, but I did have to pay quite a bit more for it than the Xtrons for sure. We've got equalizer settings in here. We've got a ton of different equalizer settings. We've got in here, you know, things like a vinyl processor to make it sound a bit more like, you know, you're listening to a vinyl record. We've got subwoofer output level. I don't think that it seems to make a difference. Like, it doesn't seem to be, you know, making the subwoofer any louder. I've got the Beats audio system in my car. But we do have in here some pretty sweet stuff. So we've got crossover settings here, which I may need to fool around with some more, but we've got crossover settings for the front, the rear, and the subwoofer, and all of those work the way that they're supposed to. And we've got a parametric equalizer, which I have no idea how to use. I don't know anything about parametric equalizers. I'll have to maybe educate myself and try using that in the future. But yeah, we've got all of these different settings here, and I'm gonna play around some more with the equalizer, the listening positions. Right now I've got the listening position set to the front. You can have it set to the driver, front left, all the way around, customize it. If you customize it, you can measure the distance between the speakers to where you're positioned and make it really, really custom. Yeah, it is super responsive. It is really nice. I love all the features. It didn't retain the factory microphone, so I did have to install the microphone that came with the kit. So that's where I placed it. But it works well. I just realized I didn't show you guys the backup camera, which is pretty silly. So I'm gonna put it in reverse. Got the OEM backup camera, much easier to see here. I mean, it's not the highest resolution backup camera to begin with. So when it was paired with a really rotten screen, it was no good. I can adjust these lines myself. I don't have the factory lines showing up. I can't quite seem to get that working, but the factory lines also would move. They were dynamic. I wish that they would come back. I don't know how to get them back, but at least I have these lines, and they are easily adjustable from the car. So inside the head unit, I can turn them on or off. I can adjust them left or right. I can adjust the width. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this setup.